Let's finish it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Closing Pitch. My name is Spiker Helms, and this is a show about people, culture, and how to create a winning lifestyle. The brass was in the office today. It was fun. We had a few Rawlings representatives in the Tigers facility. Rawlings training facility, and then the Tigers headquarters is inside of that. But they were checking around the facility, seeing how everything was working, and I think we passed the test.
I think so. They stayed a long time.
Yeah.
Talk to get them out. It's good to see those guys.
By the way, I'm going to send you to Human Resources. I'm going to put in a...
What did I do now? Because there's a long list.
We won't get into it.
What did I do now?
So today, guys, what we're going to be talking about is aiming to be professional and aiming to look the part and be the part. And some of you are like, well, how do I know what to look like and be like if I'm not living in that culture or that profession, right? And colleges do a pretty good job to prepare you for the interview.
Yeah, they get you prepared to not totally fail right away.
Like, that's literally all we talked about in college.
Right.
And then when we got out,
you're not going to fail 100%.
You're not going to fail 100%.
Yeah.
We're giving you all this information. It's not going to apply to anything that you do in real life. But this interview is the real thing.
Yeah, you'll probably do okay.
You might last for like 2 months, and then you'll get fired. And then we'll figure it all.
Then
you'll
figure the life out.
And then just come back and get a master's, and we'll get a doctorate too.
Yeah, it's going to take you 15 years to actually figure this out. But you'll be okay.
I was talking to one of our parents outside of, well, you were there. It was at Cyberg's. We were talking about the new a possible new location. It was just a discovery phase, to be honest with you. It was a really good talk. And one of the things that really popped in my head, and it was just literally a sliver of the conversation. And he said, it saddens me because there are players out there and their head coach is wearing a cutoff T-shirt and sandals. It just doesn't look good. And this is a high school team.
I've coached against guys wearing jeans. I've coached against, backwards hats and all kinds of stuff.
Again, if you throw 95, you can do whatever the hell you want.
True.
I mean, Dennis Quaid in that movie, what was it called? The
Rookie.
The Rookie showed up in jeans and threw 93, 94.
Right.
And got a contract with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Right.
But majority of the time, that's not the case. That's like literally a miracle and a guy getting touched by God and being able to throw 95. Sure. Leadership really dictates the culture of a team. And you'll be surprised that players can also dictate that culture unknowingly.
Yep.
When you have a person that comes into your team and they look the part, they look professional, they're wearing their pants the right way, they're wearing their jersey the right way, they're not wearing a cutoff, it's contagious. And a good indication of that is guys that wear eye black. One guy that has eye black smears it down his face, everyone's like, man, he looks like a warrior, I'm going to do the same thing.
He looks like a baseball player.
Does it have a purpose? No, it has no purpose whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, is that really shielding your glare from the sun? Probably not. But hey, it looks cool. Same thing with the tape around your wrists.
Yeah. The Oakleys,
Remember the fighting necklaces?
Yeah, those are awful. Yeah. Those did not look good.
Would you be surprised if I was one of those guys?
You wore that.
I had two. I wore two.
Of course.
I wore.
Yeah,
I was a two.
Did it balance you, Spiker?
I felt more
Yeah.
balanced.
Did you feel
Way
more
more
balanced?
balanced. Yeah. Anyways, one of my junior college coaches said, "You have to fake it till you make it." I honestly, when he first said that, I did not like that phrase one bit. But as I've gotten older, I really appreciate that phase because there's a lot of truth to that.
It's the same thing. Like we had a phrase, and I've heard this through when I was in high school, college. I've kept using it forever. Look good, feel good, play good. And that's different for every guy, but it was something that we all kind of took to heart. It was like, dude, if I showed up looking sloppy, if my shirt wasn't tucked, if I had one pant leg rolled up a little higher than the other, and my shoelaces were untied, and my hat was off and crinkly and everything else, I just kind of, you kind of felt like people were looking at you and judging like, dude, that guy looks like a slob. Like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden I kind of felt like that. And then I was like, dude, am I going to really, do you feel like you're going to play good that day? Like, not a chance. So that look good, feel good, play good is just kind of a part of that, looking the part. Like every tryout, one of our judging factors is what? The eye test. Mm-hmm. What does the eye test normally consider? Like, why does one guy get a 5, which is the top score, and one guy get a 1? Normally, it's appearance. It has to do with their stature too, but a lot of it's appearance. Do you look like a baseball player? Do you look like you care? If you don't, to me, and I'm sure we'll get down this route, but it all trickles down.
I would say
details.
That'd probably be one of the most important aspects of the tryout.
Well, you don't miss on it. Generally, the guys who have the 5 eye test can play a little bit, because if they're going to put enough attention into detail, into how they're dressing or caring enough about, this is what the top college guys, the high school guys, the pro dudes look like, they probably watch the game. They probably have an understanding. They're probably surrounding themselves around the game consistently. So now they know what to look like. So they probably have played a lot. It all works together.
I try to put myself back in that mindset of like when I was their age, when looking at a tryout, and I had confidence, but there's some uncertainty. There's a lot of nerves going into a tryout. But what I could always rely on was I knew that I was going to look the part, and when I put my uniform on, it felt like I was on top of the world, because when I started looking, because players that are very competitive, when they get into a tryout, they're looking at who their competition is.
They're sizing everyone up.
Oh, yeah, they're sizing everyone up. What happens if you just look the part? Like, oh, damn, that guy looks good.
It's half the battle. It honestly is. I mean, think about this. I'm sure there's a player or a coach out there listening. What happens when you show up at the park one day and you're about to play a team and you don't really know who they are? You know the name, right? And you look over, and all those dudes are dressed to the 9. Like, they look the part. Like, they look like the term the dudes, right? Mm-hmm. You hear this all the time, the chatter. I've heard it. I've heard it in our dugouts a million times. Like, dude, those guys look legit. You start psyching yourself out before, which then that's a whole nother story or podcast that I can go down and, I got to put a stop to that and change that real quick. But it's true. You show up to go play Vanderbilt. Every one of their dudes looks put together. There's not one shirt untucked. There's not one belt off alignment, because they're that attention to detail oriented guys. It makes a difference.
I love using the suit analogy. There's different ways that you can wear a suit. You can wear a suit to where it's very simple. You have a jacket, you have a tie, and then you have a button down, and then you have nice slacks, then you have nice shoes. Then there's another level up where I can add a 3-piece suit into that. Then I can add in a chain. I can add in a pocket square. Mm-hmm. I can start leveling all the way up. At some point, there's a level to where I start looking like a joke. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's the same thing with any job or any industry, is that there's a point to where you look like a slob, and then there's a point where you look like a joke, where you're not taken as serious.
Sure.
Baseball players have the same thing, where a guy that looks really clean and looks good has his uniform tucked in, belt loops, has the leather belt, not the stretchy belt, but a leather belt. His cleats are clean. He maybe has a little bit of swag, has the TV tape, or has some eye black. But then you start adding in the pit vipers. You start adding in the multiple batting gloves in the back pocket. You start having the
shields.
Yeah, you have the Evo shield. It gets to a point where, you just spend a lot of money.
Yeah, then you just care about the gear and everything else, and not your game.
Yeah, because looking the part, which is aiming to be professional, and not looking the part, going over the top, and you still can't back it up, that's a problem. You want to be in that spectrum of, I want to be right in the middle of sloppiness and too much swag.
To me it bears down in one simple thing. It's the pride. You're a brand in and of itself. Your team's a brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your appearance says a lot about you. Your appearance says a lot about your pride of yourself. Whether you're a coach, whether you're a player, it all says something, right? If I'm a coach and I'm sitting down in the third base dugout with my shirt untucked and my belly hanging out, or I got, I look terrible, like I just don't give a crap. What appearance does that say? What does that say? What does that say about my pride? I could be the best coach in the world. Maybe that person is. What does it say? To me, no offense, but it says I don't really care enough to do that. And if you don't care enough, I've said it a million times, it's a trickle-down effect. If you don't care about that, you're probably not going to care about going the extra mile for your players. You're probably not going to – that practice is going to end at an hour. It's not going to go any further. I'm not sticking around. I got other things to do. You're not going to care about the tiny details of a player's swing. You're not going to go that extra mile because you're not a detail-oriented person. You're not taking pride in that area. It's no different than your swing. It's no different than your throwing motion. Same for players. If you're going around looking slobbish and not really caring about it and being like, whatever, coach, that doesn't matter. That doesn't put runs up on the board. Yes, it does. 100% does, because it's all collected.
That's why I'm worried, because I feel like it's shifted to 60% of the people that I see, they don't care about how they look. Then you have the 40% that are doing it. It used to be, I hate to say it, back in my day, you're starting to see this shift of like a lot of sloppiness out there, which is concerning.
I don't even like, all the accessories are great and cool, and that's fine if that's what you're into, and that does play a part in it. But it's just the simple, like, you ever heard like this is how attention to detail like the Marines or the Army guys are. They like literally have to make their bed a specific way every morning. They get graded on it. So like there can't be one crease out, right? Do you think that translates to how their performance is in the battlefield or whatever they're doing?
100%.
Because if you're going to care that much about that little thing, then you're going to care that much about everything you do. It 100% translates.
Well, in pro ball, the first thing that I learned real quickly, because I played for the Kansas City T-Bones and the American Association, and we had a number of major leaguers that were on our team and a number of AAA guys. And I came in and I walked out on my first day, and one of the vets came over and he was like, what you doing? I was like, oh, well, Ray, I'm out here about to warm up. And he was like, with those shoes? It's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I wasn't going to say anything for BP or anything, but looking you up and down, you look like a slob, man. You need to go back up there and clean those cleats. And I looked down and like my cleats were filthy dirty.
Yeah.
I was like, so how do we clean them? He's like, I've never cleaned cleats before.
Scrubbing bubbles.
He's like, look, it's scrubbing bubbles, man. Scrubbing bubbles, cloth, and there's a brush up there for you. And make sure you get the dirt in between those metal.
Yep.
And what happened is that every time that I got into the clubhouse, I really thought about how my locker was set up. I thought about how my cleats were lined up. It just changed my perspective totally. And like, I wasn't a slob by any means from a uniform standpoint, but he saw that your cleats are dirty and that doesn't jive with us. This is a show. You're entertaining those fans and you've got to look the part. You got to be a professional. And I've carried that into a lot of the things that we do here in the Tigers, like just little minute details. And some people might call, hey, that's vanity. That is complete vanity. No, it's caring about your skill set, and it's caring about what you bring to the table.
It's like one of my favorite things that I've heard. We've mentioned Andy Frisell on here before. We listen to him. He talks about their weight room at First Form and how every single weight has to be positioned exactly the same way. If you see a piece of trash, you pick it up. You don't walk past it. If you see a mirror that has a smudge mark on it, you go get the spray and you clean it. It doesn't matter who it is, whether you're the owner of the company or the newly hired employee or just a friend there working out. It's that attention to detail that will translate over into everything you do. And that's how you're going to make sure that with your swing, no stone gets left unturned, right? We're going to follow through with it. You're not going to be the guy who swings for 20 minutes and says, see you later. You're going to be the guy who's working at it, the small details. Same thing as you translate into your job. You're going to be the guy that probably puts in the extra effort to make sure that the job's done correctly, not just finished, because there's a difference. You can finish the job, might not be right. You finish the job while putting in way more attention to detail. Now it's correct. That's and some people are like, well, that's crazy. Like, just because my shirt's like slightly untucked? Yeah.
Look at your results. I love it when people say that about the details. And they're like, oh my God, that guy's crazy. Like he pays attention to how the weight looks.
Mm-hmm.
And he pays attention to how, if there's a smudge on the mirror, what does Andy's bank account look like compared to you? Now, let's not even talk about bank account.
Sure.
Let's just talk about company. He just built a whole culture around this whole idea of a supplement.
Yep. But it is true. It is true. And, you know, I don't know how many games I've coached or played in throughout my life, but it's funny. I could probably walk out to a baseball diamond and have a fourplex. And I could probably walk around before all those games started, having not literally seen either team warm up or do anything. I bet you I call 80% of those games. I swear to God. I bet you I call who wins on a youth level, not at a college level. It's a little different, but definitely without having. Don't tell me their names. Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me a reputation. Don't tell me anything about it. I bet you I'm calling 80%.
Do you think you could call the game by just looking how they walk into the ballpark?
Yeah, I'm pretty good on tryouts just because I've seen it.
Yeah,
it's trends, and it truly does work that way. It's I don't know if it's wrong, but it's it's how it is. That it's what's true, and it says a lot. Your appearance, like, you know, I've heard college coaches talk about this is totally different, but it's like college coaches have walked away from recruits because of that.
Well,
they might have seen a million things right, and then they see one thing wrong, or they see, you know, your dad carrying your bag out and you're not. And
well, the best is the guy that takes off his pants and wears the shorts and has the jersey untucked and walks out with flip flops.
Yeah, shows up in Birkenstocks and shows up looking terrible. And I'm telling you, again, whether it's right or wrong, you might not like it. It's how it works. And they definitely will look at that, and that tells you a story. It really does, and it's a snapshot. And I've been wrong before, but it's not often. It tells you what you need to know. And honestly, it kind of keeps if it looks right, it wants me to. I want to watch
the
more.
Opportunity of how you look, like when you look the part, the opportunity that it opens up to you. The person's going to be more on your corner than anybody else.
Think about first impressions. Yeah.
Like, here's an example. So I was not very good at economics to start. Just wasn't jiving with my brain. And I was not doing well in the beginning. I was almost worried, like, oh, G's going to be really pissed off because I went from biology major, doing really well, to now I'm carrying like a C average.
Yeah.
It was just not a good situation.
Sure.
A lot of the teachers rallied behind me. And with this conversation that we're having now, my thought is maybe it's because of how I approached classes and how I looked in the class. I wasn't a prototypical athlete who was dressed down, flip-flops,
sweatpants,
4 or 5 o'clock shadow.
Sure.
I made sure that I was always there early. I made sure that I sat near the front, and I was wearing comfortable clothes. It wasn't like I never wore gym shorts,
sure.
but I wore gym shorts in a way that it looked like, hey, they're not faded.
Mm-hmm.
They look clean. It's not like I just grabbed it out of the hamper.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'd wear a polo. Sometimes I wouldn't. I'd wear khakis. I'd wear nice shorts. And they rallied behind me whenever I needed to ask a question, and then they would follow up with me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people realize when they don't dress the part, it closes off opportunities that could have potentially been there.
Because again, it's first impression. It's human nature. People do it all the time. You're going to judge immediately. There might be that one saint out there that sees everybody the same, but it's, sometimes if you look, terrible and you look like you don't care, then you're sitting in a classroom, that teacher's probably not going to go the extra mile.
It's the same thing with like digital media, because like you said it with our welcome email for registrations. It was a really good point. Like, I want to make sure that it's dressed up nicely so that when they get it, it's the first impression that they get after they register.
Yep.
I'm still working on that, by the way.
That's all right. We'll get there on it. But yeah, it says everything. And it's something, again, I go back to the word pride. And we talk about taking pride in your craft, but it's also taking pride in your appearance and taking pride in you and in who you represent. I mean, my gosh, you're going to put, as a player or a coach, you're going to put in thousands and thousands of hours, at this game to get better, to teach, to develop, to coach. And then you could possibly ruin that with one bad decision of, I'm going to look terrible that day. Think about that. You willing to do that, player? You willing to have all that work go down the drain because you looked and showed terrible and one college scout sees you and walks away from the field because of it?
Just think about the money that's invested at that point.
Yeah.
And then, like, it's going to sound, hopefully you guys don't take this the wrong way on the other end, but like, I'm thinking if I put myself in that shoes of the parent that just paid that amount of money to go to Grand Park or Lake Point, because I've seen kids do this. Mm-hmm. They're wearing their jersey untucked, their shorts are halfway down their butt, and then they're wearing sliders on their feet with dirty socks and dirty pants. I'd be really pissed off at that kid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, who the hell do you think you are? Mm-hmm. You're spending my money, and you look like that, and I'm trying to provide a dream for you?
Well, just unfortunately, for the most part, people don't understand that's the issue. They don't understand it's an issue. It's just kids being kids. It's just that quirky coach. It's just that guy. That's just Bob,
That's just what he does.
That's just what Bob does and whatever. They just don't. That's fine. That's all right.
He's new age.
Yeah.
He's very new age.
They just don't get it. But hey, again, you will at some point. That it might be down the road for you, the first job interview, and you don't show up looking appropriate. Do you not get a call back? You'll figure it out. Might be that, first really big, meeting, and you're the key presentation guy, and you show up looking silly. You don't get it.
Also, guys, understand that we are not a perfect organization.
Nope. 100%.
100%.
And I can tell you that I have messed this up plenty of times. 100%, plenty of times.
The power of the mic and talking, understand, like, we are in this learning process as much as you guys. Okay. And how I view this podcast and how I've always viewed this podcast is us giving recollection of what we see and how we can correct it. It's almost like a mini diary. Mm-hmm. That's our journal. It's a really good audio journal. And I actually go back and listen to our podcast. The oldest episodes that we've recorded, I've gone back and like, hey, what did I say here? What type of thing do I want to remember? And so I'll go back and I'll actually listen to it. So like, don't think that we're talking like we're on a pedestal or on Mount Vesuvius and saying, oh, you guys are doing it all wrong and being that old man river. It's just something that I want to change in the culture. And anytime that I see, like my teams that I had, the first year I let them wear shorts to the ballpark because I thought it was hot. I wanted to be more of a player's coach. I thought I was the cool coach, the cool guy. And then the second year I changed it to where you have to wear the same shorts. If you want to come to the ballpark, you have to wear the same shorts and you have to wear a Tigers dry fit, and then we can change in the dugout and get ready. But then when you leave the ballpark, you have to wear your uniform out of the ballpark.
Yep.
So, guys, that's closing pitch. Sorry. I'm Tiger interview series closing pitch. Right. I keep on going back and forth.
It's just taking pride in your craft, taking pride in yourself. Really, if you don't think that detail matters, you're wrong, because every detail matters. Every single detail and inch matters. I promise. And when you start to think about and care about that, you'll be very surprised at how much else now you're worried about. It'll translate over to anything that you're thinking of. You're not going to just half-ass everything. You're going to work through it. You're going to take your time. You're going to make sure that the job's done right.
30-second closing pitch from myself. Put me on the timer.
Go.
Ready, go. Another thing about this that caused me to do this episode and wanted to talk about it is that Coach Ballgame was here in St. Louis, and he is very big on details. He required all of us to actually tuck in our shirt for the actual camp, and he is a highly successful guy in the baseball world. And if you are baseball world, being able to have a successful business and being able to have fun with it and still bring a lot of value, it's very, very hard. It is extremely hard. It's a great job, great world, but it's extremely hard. And so kudos to Coach Ballgame and really giving us that idea to really talk about this. So that's my closing pitch. Guys, that is this episode of the podcast. Please subscribe. We have the Tiger Interview Series. That is another podcast that we have created. It is interviews of successful people inside of our organization. The last episode that we just recorded was with Rafael Lopez and Trent Limecooler. I really wanted to dive deep into the catching side of things. It was a huge deep dive into that. So if you are more interested in baseball and want to get practical advice in a long form type of content, they're about hour interviews. Please go over there and listen to it. Super valuable. I wish I would have had this knowledge, like literally listening to high individuals that have been very successful in this game and being able to apply it to my game at a very early age. I wish I would have had that. So anyways, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Closing Pitch has its own YouTube channel, and Tiger Interview Series is under the Rawlings Tigers YouTube channel. So thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See ya.